Have you ever felt completely frozen when you needed to make an important decision? You know you need to choose, but your mind goes blank. You weigh the options over and over, but nothing feels right. Days turn into weeks, and you are still stuck in the same place, unable to move forward. Meanwhile, that voice in your head gets louder. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I regret this forever? What if I ruin everything? This is not just indecisiveness. This is your brain caught in a psychological trap, and it is more common than you think. The strange part is that your inability to decide is not actually about the decision itself. It is about something much deeper happening in your mind. If you are curious about why your brain does this and how to break free, make sure to subscribe. We explore the psychology behind the patterns that control your life. Let me tell you what is really happening when you cannot make a decision. Your brain is not confused about what to choose. Your brain is terrified of what comes after the choice. Because here is the truth that nobody talks about. Every decision you make closes doors. Every choice you say yes to means saying no to something else. And your brain hates this. Your brain wants to keep all possibilities open. It wants to preserve every potential future, every possible version of your life. This is called loss aversion, and it is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Research shows that the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something. Think about that. Losing $10 feels much worse than finding $10 feels good. Your brain is wired to avoid loss at almost any cost. And when you are facing a decision, your brain sees every unchosen option as a loss. Imagine you are choosing between two job offers. One is safe and stable, the other is exciting but risky. Your logical mind can list the pros and cons easily, but your emotional brain is doing something completely different. It is imagining all the things you will lose with each choice. If you take the safe job, you lose the excitement, the adventure, the possibility of something extraordinary. If you take the risky job, you lose the security, the stability, the comfort of knowing exactly what comes next. Your brain is not comparing what you will gain, it is mourning what you will lose. And this creates a psychological paralysis. You cannot move forward because moving forward means accepting loss, and your brain will do almost anything to avoid that feeling. But it goes even deeper than this. There is another mechanism at work, and it is called decision fatigue. Your brain has a limited amount of mental energy each day. Every decision you make, no matter how small, uses up some of that energy. What to wear, what to eat, which route to take to work, which email to answer first. By the end of the day, your brain is exhausted from making tiny choices. And when a big decision comes along, it simply does not have the resources left to handle it. This is why you can spend 20 minutes staring at a menu in a restaurant, unable to choose what to eat. It is not because the decision is difficult. It is because your brain is already drained from the hundreds of micro decisions you made earlier that day. And here is where it gets interesting. When your brain is in this depleted state, it defaults to doing nothing, because doing nothing feels safer than making the wrong choice. Your brain would rather keep you stuck than risk making a mistake when it does not have full mental capacity. Now, let me show you something that will change how you see your own indecision. There is a concept in psychology called the paradox of choice. You would think that having more options would make decisions easier, right? More freedom, more possibilities, more control. But research shows the exact opposite. The more options you have, the harder it becomes to choose, and the less satisfied you are with whatever you eventually pick. In one famous study, researchers set up a table with jam samples at a grocery store. One day, they offered 6 flavors to try. Another day, they offered 24 flavors. When there were 24 options, more people stopped to look. But when there were only 6 options, people were 10 times more likely to actually buy jam. Too many choices did not create more freedom. It created paralysis. And even when people did choose from the 24 options, they were less happy with their choice. They kept wondering if one of the other 23 flavors would have been better. This is what happens in your life every single day. You are not just choosing a career. You are choosing between hundreds of possible careers you could have. You are not just choosing a partner. You are choosing them over every other person you could potentially meet. You are not just choosing where to live. You are choosing one location out of thousands of places in the world. The modern world has given you infinite options, and your brain is drowning in possibility. Every choice comes with the weight of everything you are not choosing. And this is exhausting. This is why people 50 years ago often seemed more content with their decisions. It is not because they made better choices, it is because they had fewer options to compare their choices against. Their brains were not constantly calculating all the alternate realities they were missing out on. But here is where your indecision reveals something even more important about you. When you cannot make a decision, it is often because the decision is forcing you to confront who you are and who you want to become. Big decisions are identity decisions. They are not just about choosing between option A and option B. They are about choosing between 2 different versions of yourself. Should I stay in this relationship or leave? This is really asking, am I someone who prioritizes stability or someone who prioritizes personal growth? Should I pursue this creative career or stick with my practical job? This is really asking, am I someone who plays it safe or someone who takes risks? Your inability to choose is not about the external options. It is about internal uncertainty. You do not know which version of yourself you want to be, so you cannot commit to the choice that would make you that person. And your brain has a name for this internal conflict. It is called cognitive dissonance. This happens when you hold 2 contradictory beliefs or desires at the same time. Part of you wants security, part of you wants adventure, part of you wants to be independent, part of you wants deep connection, part of you wants to change everything, part of you wants everything to stay the same. These contradictions create psychological tension, and that tension is painful. So your brain tries to avoid making a decision because any decision would force you to acknowledge the contradiction. It would force you to admit that you cannot have everything, that you have to choose one desire over another, that you have to let go of one version of your possible future. And this feels like a small death. It feels like killing off part of yourself, so you stay frozen, hoping that somehow, if you wait long enough, a perfect option will appear that satisfies all your contradictory desires. But that option does not exist. Here is what makes this even more complicated. Your brain is also dealing with something called anticipated regret. Before you even make a decision, your brain is already imagining how you will feel if the decision turns out badly. It is pre-experiencing the regret. It is feeling the pain of a mistake you have not even made yet. And this anticipated regret is so powerful that it can completely paralyze you. You imagine choosing the risky job and failing. You imagine the embarrassment, the financial stress, the feeling of having made a terrible mistake. Your brain makes this imagined future feel so real that you experience the emotional pain right now in the present moment, even though nothing has actually happened. And because that pain is so intense, you avoid making the choice. You stay in limbo, which feels safer, even though limbo has its own kind of pain. The pain of stagnation, the pain of watching your life pass by while you remain stuck. But at least that pain is familiar. Your brain prefers familiar pain over unknown risk. Now let me tell you about the hidden cost of indecision that nobody talks about. When you cannot make a choice, you think you are keeping your options open, but you are actually losing something precious. You are losing time. You are losing momentum. You are losing the compound benefits of commitment. Every day you spend unable to choose is a day you are not moving forward in any direction. Think of it like standing at a crossroads. You refuse to pick a path because you are afraid of choosing the wrong one. But while you stand there, frozen, both paths are moving away from you. Opportunities on each path are disappearing. People on each path are moving forward without you. The landscape is changing, and the longer you wait, the fewer real options you actually have. Indecision does not preserve possibility, it destroys it. Because possibilities have expiration dates. That job offer will not wait forever. That relationship will not pause while you figure things out. That opportunity to try something new will not remain available indefinitely. Your indecision is not neutral. It is a choice in itself. It is choosing to let circumstances decide for you instead of taking control of your own life. So what is actually happening in your brain during all of this? There is a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. This is your decision-making center. It weighs options, predicts outcomes, and helps you plan for the future. But there is another part of your brain called the amygdala. This is your fear center. It detects threats and triggers emotional responses. When you are facing a big decision, these two parts of your brain are in conflict. Your prefrontal cortex is trying to think logically, but your amygdala is screaming danger. It is treating the decision like a survival threat, and when your amygdala is activated, it actually impairs the functioning of your prefrontal cortex. Your logical thinking gets clouded by fear. This is why you can feel so confused when trying to make an important choice. It is not that you lack information. It is that your fear brain is overriding your thinking brain. You cannot think clearly because your entire system is in a state of perceived threat. And here is the crucial insight. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. To your amygdala, the possibility of making a wrong decision feels the same as the possibility of physical danger. Your body responds the same way. Your heart rate increases, your muscles tense. Stress hormones flood your system. You feel anxious, maybe even panicked. All because you are trying to decide something. Your brain has turned a neutral choice into a life or death situation. And in that state, making any decision feels impossible. You are not operating from wisdom or clarity. You are operating from fear. But here is where everything shifts. The key to overcoming indecision is not to make the perfect choice. It is to accept that perfect choices do not exist. Every decision you make will have downsides. Every path you choose will have challenges. Every option you pick will mean giving up something else. And this is not a problem. This is just the nature of being human. You cannot have every possible life. You cannot be every possible version of yourself. You have to choose. And the moment you accept this, the moment you stop searching for the one right answer, and instead accept that multiple answers could work, your brain can finally relax. The pressure releases, the fear subsides, and suddenly deciding becomes possible. There is a concept called satisficing, and it might be the most liberating idea you ever encounter. Satisficing means choosing an option that is good enough rather than endlessly searching for the best possible option. It means setting a reasonable standard and then picking the first option that meets that standard. This is not about lowering your expectations or settling for less. It is about recognizing that the search for perfection is what keeps you stuck. Perfection is not real. It is an illusion that your brain creates to avoid the discomfort of commitment. When you satisfice, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of comparison and doubt. You make a choice that meets your needs, and then you move forward. And here is the remarkable thing. Research shows that satisficers are generally happier than people who always search for the optimal choice, because they spend less time second-guessing. They spend less energy on regret. They make a decision, commit to it, and then focus on making that decision work, rather than wondering if a different decision would have been better.